One of the questions that we're asked most frequently is why? Why would they lie to us about the earth being flat? Now, in my opinion, we're being lied to not only about the shape of the earth, we're being lied to about the very nature of reality itself. In this video, I'll go over 5 reasons why I believe that we're being misled about the nature of our reality. They say that the love of money is the root of all evil, and I find that to be a very true statement. Just the fake moon landings alone cost the taxpayers around $3 trillion to run that whole fiasco. Just this year in 2017, NASA was granted a budget of $19.5 billion for their annual operations, whatever those may be, other than giving us CGI images and fake spacewalks, people with permed hair pretending to be in zero gravity. But, subsequent questions come up when people hear about that. They'll ask, well, wouldn't people blow the whistle? Not everybody is in on it, so somebody would come out and say it if they were all lying to us. Well, not necessarily. You see, the NASA astronauts, the ones that you see on camera, they are Freemasons. And because of that, they've been sworn to secrecy. So they aren't at liberty to disclose these things. Now, the other NASA employees behind the scenes, working the computers or whatever they're doing out there, they may very well be part of the general population who believe that the Earth is a spinning ball out in space anyway. They believe the globe model, so there's no need really to, have them under some sort of gag order for the most part. And even then, there may be another option. Now, let me ask you, if someone came to you and offered you a job to work at a place, the budget, your salary, your annual salary will be $115,000. That's how much you're going to make every year. The only stipulation is you have one secret to keep. Now, you have to agree that you're going to keep this one secret before you're hired on, before you do all your paperwork, and before you receive a penny of that money. Would you take the job? Now, another potential reason as to why we're being lied to about the shape of the Earth will be that they're hiding land from us. Now, one of the more widely accepted models of the flat Earth is the 1892 Gleason Standard Map of the World. This map is said to be scientifically and practically correct, as it is. Now, that map shows Antarctica as a 360-degree ice wall surrounding all the inner continents. In 1954, Admiral Richard Byrd, a highly decorated naval officer, conducted an interview where he alluded to the idea that there may very well be land beyond the poles.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well, Admiral, do you hope to see that?
Now, with that being said, it's also said that from where that expedition launched from, going beyond Antarctica at the distance that Richard Byrd said that they traveled, that landmass that he said they discovered would have been positioned somewhere in the Indian Ocean. Now, also, there's another map. It's a 1907 Buddhist map. It shows other landmasses, other continents, if you will, outside of what we've been able to explore. There's another map. It's pretty interesting to me. It shows more land outside, of course, and it shows other celestial bodies. There's been speak of a sort of summer's gate, is what it's called, when in the southern hemisphere, the ice melts and it opens up an area to where privileged individuals, I suppose, could travel to the outer side and venture out to these other lands. But the main issue here is that we don't know. That's the big problem. We don't know where we are. Okay? That's what we're all trying to figure out here. And I'll tell you, the average heliocentric enthusiast knows in the back of their mind that they'll likely never be able to go out to space due to the lack of certification. You have to be an astronaut. You have to go through this battery of training in order to be certified. You would have had to get so much education to get to that position. Also, financial. Most of us don't really have the money laying around to build our own rocket to go out to space. So, that's another hindrance in that. Just the same, the average flat earther knows that we're not going to be able to go to Antarctica to explore for some of the same reasons. But there is the Antarctic Treaty where, 53 or so nations have signed saying that no one's going to lay claim to Antarctica and that there are massive restrictions for travel there. You can't just get up and go to Antarctica on your own. You have to have a tour guide with you, and there are only certain entry points, and there are limits on where you can go search for yourself. Now, that in itself screams deception in my eyes because, well, if you're hiding something, there's got to be a good reason for it, just the same. Also, along the lines of hiding land, there's another area that we don't really talk about. We don't talk a lot about the North Pole. We don't talk a lot about the Arctic Circle. Hint, hint. We don't hear a whole lot about that, probably because people just dismiss it because they say that's where Santa Claus's workshop is. So automatically people just shut their brain off and don't even consider it. So, there's a lot of mystery surrounding the Arctic. Also, it's said that that's where some energy vortex is. There's a video where it shows what looks like a giant sinkhole. Looks like energy's either flowing in or out of that hole. There's water that seems to be flowing into this sinkhole, and there looks like energy is either going in or coming out of it. There's also talk about Mount Meru. That's some sort of magnetic mountain. That's why all the compasses on the flat Earth point towards the North Pole. Some sort of form of electromagnetism. Yeah, that would make sense. The whole core of the Earth aspect, that's invalid because the Kola Ultra Deep project in the 90s, the deepest hole that's been dug, that only went 7.5 to 8 miles deep. So when you see those little graphics showing, the crust, the mantle, the outer core, and the inner core with all these pretty colors, that's all just speculation. That's a cartoon. That's just a graphic. They don't know what's down there because they haven't gone that deep. So, the Arctic, that's another place that's pretty mysterious, in my opinion. But, again, we don't know. And we need to be asking questions. So, there's that aspect. Also, they're leading the population to believe that we are somehow stuck in a landlocked position. It's kind of a form of mental slavery, if you sit down and think about it long enough. What if they are hiding land? What if they're hiding more land from us in order to keep us as servants on this massive plantation, constantly feeding into this predatory financial system? Now, the suppression of free energy, that goes along with us being hidden from the true nature of the world. Nikola Tesla was a brilliant inventor, and when I say brilliant, I mean to the degree of intelligence beyond that of Albert Einstein. In actuality, it's been said, not sure if this is true or not, that at one point when Albert Einstein was asked what it's like to be the smartest man alive, he said You'll have to ask Nikola Tesla. So he was just that brilliant. Tesla understood the nature of our reality. He understood that the world is abundant in energy, and he found a way to harness this energy out of thin air. Tesla's lifelong goal was to provide free energy to the world. But due to scrutiny and greed of men who stood to gain from the financial benefits of supplying power from these massive electrical plants and so-called fossil fuels, Tesla died penniless and alone. Again, money. And shortly after his death, agents from wherever seized Tesla's inventions and his patents, and to this day we have no idea what happened to him. You know, since Tesla's death, multiple inventors have found ways to provide free, clean, and efficient energy to the world, yet this technology hasn't been made mainstream for whatever reason. My guess here is money, again, because they, whoever they is, can't make money if you aren't being charged for energy. You know, it's always a financial benefit behind what they do here. Again, this is a predatory financial system. You know, why else would anyone suppress free energy technology unless their main goal was just to make money off of us? Seriously, can you imagine how different the world would be if our homes were run off of this free electricity that constantly surrounds us? Or by solar, which is provided by an energy source as abundant as the sun. Do you know how different things would be if we all had cars that ran off of water? Hydrogen-powered cars have been invented, and the technology to go mainstream, or the ability to go mainstream with these products, has been suppressed by large corporations and our government. Question: are we intentionally being misled about the true nature of our world, which is abundant with energy, in order to financially benefit a small handful of wealthy elite?
It's a major breakthrough that will no doubt make motorists happy. And as Ralph Robinson explains, the Pentagon is also showing lots of interest in this project.
Water has always been considered a precious commodity, but Stan Meyer's invention may make it even more valuable. He has developed what's called a water fuel cell. It has taken the place of his old gas tank. The water fuel cell breaks down water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen is used to run his dune buggy.
I don't care if you use rainwater, well water, city water, ocean water. If you don't have any fresh water, go ahead and use snow. If you don't have any snow available to you, they use salt water because there's no adverse effect to the fuel cell.
Meyer started working on this project 4 years ago. He's not a scientist. He isn't even a chemist. In fact, he never graduated from college. Myers was determined, he says, to design something to protect this country from oil embargoes.
And we have calculated that if we take the dune buggy from Los Angeles to New York, we would roughly use 22 gallons of water.
Stan Meyer would die soon after these interviews. It was suspected that Stan had been poisoned. That's a strange way to die in this day and age. Also, the day he died seemed to be more than a coincidence. You know how they like to play with numbers. Many ancient civilizations were under the belief that we all live on a flat, stationary Earth, underneath a dome-like enclosure known as the firmament. This was a widely held belief up until around 500 years ago, when some Jesuit pseudoscientists came along with a big steaming pile of calculations in order to justify the globe model that we're all subjected to today. Since then, we've been inundated with this idea, and we've been taught that from a Big Bang explosion that happened billions of years ago, an explosion out of nothing created everything in such perfection that we see today. Although what we've been told about this can't be duplicated in a laboratory, at no point does something come out of nothing. That just doesn't happen, can't be repeated, can't be duplicated. So, again, pseudoscience. Now, roughly since then, we've all been taught this globe model. Now, there's a passage: train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I believe that's why we have so many who are indoctrinated to still believe and fight so hard for the heliocentric model. The reason being is because we've been taught the globe model since before we had the ability to think for ourselves. Think about that. Before you could think for yourself, before you could form rational thought, you've been taught that you live on a spinning ball, although your five senses tell you something totally different. Our senses tell us that the earth is flat and stationary, that the sun and moon and the stars rotate above us just as we see, that they make their annual cycles in such a way that we can calculate days, months, and years of the passage of time, just like in Scripture. The earth in itself works like a well-designed timepiece, and we all know that any timepiece that we can think of has a designer. What if the lie is to hide the existence of that designer? What if they're lying to us about this because they're hiding God? Now, this aspect has to do with the nature of reality itself and our potential as human beings. We've all had this instance where you've thought about someone, you spoke about someone in passing, and then after a few minutes or a couple hours or so, you get a call or a text message or an email from this person, and you're thinking to yourself, or you literally say to them when you pick up the phone, I was just thinking about you. I was just thinking about you. You know, I was just talking about you. When people say, speak of the devil, then that's that, you know, they usually say that when someone pops up and you were just talking about them. We've all experienced this once or twice, maybe more than that in our lives. So, I mean, do we have the ability to pull people into our existence just by thinking about them? That's something to contemplate. Another odd thing is deja vu. We all had this point in our lives where we, in our waking lives, come to a point to where we feel like we've already been there, as if at some point part of our consciousness experienced looking into the future and being in this certain situation, and then deja vu occurs in our waking hours when reality catches up to what we saw in the spirit. That's deja vu. There's another thing called remote viewing, where a person can fall into a trance and kind of leave their body. They have a sort of out-of-body experience where they can send part of their consciousness or their mind or their spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, to another place to gather information. And this has been taught. This has been done in military operations, or it's been reported to have been done, where there are special teams who are taught remote viewing, and they'll go into this trance. They'll go view some place, some area, some sealed off area on Earth. Distance doesn't matter when doing this. Their spirit goes there, gathers data, talks about, figures out how many people are in the room, it can scan documents for information, and then bring it back to the body. And when that individual wakes up, they're able to accurately tell whoever's standing next to them, their superior officer, this information that they've gathered while out of body. And that's widely reported as something that happens in these secret programs. There's another aspect, and we've all experienced something like this, creating our own reality to a degree. There have been instances where you've said, I really don't want this to happen, I really, really don't want this to happen, and it happened anyway. There have been points where you've thought about something, you've desired something so much, and because you put that much energy, focus, attention, emotion, whatever you want to call it, or a combination of those things, into this event, it actually manifests itself in your reality. For example, I have the story of a few years ago. I was doing physique competitions. I had started doing those competitions, and You know, about 3 weeks out, I was still training and getting ready. I was lifting my weights and eating right and all that. And there were, like, 3 weeks out, I would be in my apartment. And I would sit quietly and close my eyes and meditate. And I would think about, you know, what it would be like to win. I would focus on the emotions of having my name called as the winner. I thought envisioned myself on the stage being presented with a trophy or a sword. You know, I wanted to feel what it felt like to be the winner on that particular evening. And I would focus on that. I would sit down 10 to 15 minutes each night for about 3 weeks, give or take. And it happened exactly like that. The night of that competition, I won first place men's physique, won first place men's physique overall, and was interviewed by a guy from the Northwest Guardian. And that's exactly what I said. There was a point when I was at work, after I had been doing this for about a week, this whole visualization exercise at home. You know, one of my supervisors came to me. He says, "Oh, you got a competition coming up. What do you think's going to happen?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to win." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to win first place men's physique. I'm going to win first place men's physique overall. And I'm going to be interviewed by the Northwest Guardian." And that's exactly what happened that night. And in the following competition, the NPC Northwest Classic in Tacoma that year, I did the same thing. Sat in my apartment, visualized myself winning, you know, visualized the guy calling my name, visualized being handed a sword for the overall winner, and all that, and felt the emotions, talked about it, and it happened just like that. And we've all experienced something like that to some degree. We all supposedly have the ability to create aspects of our own reality. We can manifest events into our lives by putting enough attention and focus on these things. And that may very well be something that is being hidden from us. You know, we should be taught these things. These abilities should be developed, in my opinion. You know, that's another thing about reality that I believe is being hidden from us. You know, it's our true potential as people who can manifest things and you know, pull circumstances into our lives just by thought and focus and emotion. And that was my experience with that. So, you know, you got to ask yourself, is that what's being hidden? Is that what's being suppressed? Are they hiding our potential? What if they're hiding you from yourself? Think about that. And that's all I got for this video. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Hit the bell so you can be one of those individuals who receive notification when I submit a new video for upload to this platform. Be sure to link up with myself and the crew over at The Future of Flat Earth and or Flat Life on Facebook. As always, be good to each other. Take care. Stay flat. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.